I want to move on to kind of the threats that we face.
Yeah.
The first is on this issue in Vegas in front of the Trump Hotel. I listened to the Sean Ryan interview the other day. I see you shaking your head. Tell me why. Why is this not concerning?
Well, it is, but it's not gravitic propulsion systems from the planet Zarquan. I mean, seriously, when the guy who has a bad reputation anyway for forging stuff on his own show comes on one of the biggest podcasts out there with a former special operator, and he uses the phrase gravitic propulsion, that if you look up on Google has only ever been used in a Star Wars movie, you probably shouldn't talk about real threats like the drones and mix them in with, X-Files meets the Twilight Zone. And I reached out to Sean. I said, Sean, dude, let me help you. I'm a private citizen for the next, 2 weeks. Happy to come on your show. And the guy was like, sorry, I'm good, thanks. Okay, so clicks, I guess, are more important than the truth. But we've seen this.
So the bottom line is we don't need to, there's just a lot that was thrown into the ether with that interview. I mean, that guy, what's his name? Matt Livingberger, who was the guy that blew himself up, has this manifesto out there where he talks about knowledge of programs and war crimes. You don't think any of this is legit?
No. I mean, look, like any good story that you want to spin up, it takes a little bit of the truth and then he blows it up and mixes it up. I mean, the idea, look, the best response to this is Ryan Macbeth. Ryan Macbeth on YouTube is one of the smartest guys out there, 22 years, heavy weapons guy, cross-trained with cyber, worked with the IC, knows about drones. And he made this one point. What did he say? In 2019, we bombed hundreds of houses in Afghanistan. We didn't do that. You'd have to go back to 2002. What are you talking about? Hundreds in one night? It's just fallacious. You can't be committing war crimes with thousands of people during the Trump administration when we were drawing down and the footprint was shrinking. So this idea that war crimes, China, anti-gravity, it's either, look, the best explanation, and I don't want to get out in front of things here, but I've been given certain briefings. If you look at the facts of the case, if you look at the guy's marital history, if you look at PTSD in general, as one of my friend's fathers said, what Vegas looks like is an exquisite suicide. It's a call for help. You don't use fireworks and jerry cans as a Green Beret if you want to kill a lot of people. Green Berets know how to kill a lot of people with a very small amount of munitions. You're making a statement. And again, I'm a gun guy. I'm sorry, I've got 3 Desert Eagles. Desert Eagles are not what terrorists use to kill people, right? It's what Arnold Schwarzenegger says, I'll be back with in the Hollywood movies. But it's a $3,000 gun if it's, one of the custom ones. Here, I think he had a titanium coated one. It's extravagant. It's flamboyant. It's not jihad. The real threat is New Orleans, and I'm happy to talk about that.
Okay, so let's talk. Well, actually, before we do that, I want to get to New Orleans, but you mentioned drones. Before Christmas, everybody was talking about drones in New Jersey, and suddenly we stopped talking about drones. Why? What is the problem gone? Is it what? It seems like suddenly a switch got flipped and we stopped talking about drones.
Well, because I think, look, the president's press conference at Mar-a-Lago was so very, very telling.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went.
I mean, he so walks the line because he's getting the presidential daily intel briefing. He admitted to having been briefed on the issue, and he was blunt. He said, "This isn't, the enemy coming to get you." I can't say more than that. But if this were gravitic propulsion from Mars or the Chinese invasion, I think President Trump's answer would have been a little bit different because he cares about America. So as a caller to Chris Plant's show pointed out, in the midst of the, oh my gosh, they're invading, go to the summer of 2023 and flying.com magazine And there's this long article in flying.com about how the FAA, the DOD, and the governors of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York have approved a special drone testing corridor above their 3 states.
That's fine, but then why wasn't that just said? Why can't someone say, "Hey, there's a drone testing corridor"?
Why is the FBI agent in charge at the press briefing after New Orleans wearing a nose ring in contravention of FBI regulations? Gross incompetence. And I would probably guess there are aspects of this testing that are sensitive, and people didn't want to be, oh, this is us, this is Skunk Works, or this is whatever testing.
Sure, fair enough. But not one official has said, hey, we're not going to get into the details, but we know what we're doing, and it's okay. Instead, they kind of let everyone get all ginned up.
This is the same administration who said after 13 servicemen and women were murdered by ISIS in Kabul that they're proud of how we exited Afghanistan. Lloyd Austin said, we are proud of this operation. I don't expect any acts of honor or competence from an administration that isn't willing to go to Arlington Cemetery for the 3rd anniversary of the killed in Kabul. This is who they are.
The bottom line is, so bottom line, with respect to drones, you're saying that we don't need to be worried about what we've seen over New Jersey.
Look, I haven't been read into that. My open source estimation is it's not enemy agency involved. However, I will say the following. The fact that more than 80%, and this is unclassified, of the drones in use by the 17,000 law enforcement agencies in America are made in China is a big deal.
Okay. All right, so let's get to China, but I want to,
this is why the Ryan Shawn thing is so dangerous, right? Because you take real issues like PTSD suicides by our warfighters, Chinese drones being used by US law enforcement, and you mix it up with absolute BS garbage about, anti-gravity propulsion and, war crimes committed by our own warfighters. And you just do it for clicks. And this is one of the reasons that, I do what I do, because let's have some critical thinking. And it's like Dan Bongino's thing on his radio, the Bongino rule. I never comment about a news story for the first 72 hours because it turns out that most of the original stuff is spin.
Right. Yeah. No, I get it. All right. So before we head over to China, tell me about what do we need to do? What's the takeaway from New Orleans? Because I will just say off the top of my head, I'll use the word that you just used about some of the feds, which is incompetence. The New Orleans chief didn't seem to even know that they had a barricade system that wasn't up. Everyone keeps asking, what should we do? And my answer is use your head, use common sense. I'm not sure you can prevent stupidity and people doing evil, but you can do the basics.
Yeah, so I've been saying this since I wrote my first book, Defeating Jihad, 10 years ago. If you don't believe you're on the front line on the war with jihadis, you're living in a fantasy land. I mean, it's Christmas parties in San Bernardino as you're being slain by your Muslim colleagues. It's dance parties at that dance school in England where 3 beautiful little girls were knifed to death by a jihadi in the middle of their Britney Spears dance class. The second you step out of your home, I mean, that's why I'm always carrying a weapon, right? I'm licensed to carry in DC, Virginia, Maryland. I don't leave my home unless I'm packing. Why? Because, why do I carry a gun? As the old joke goes, because the law enforcement officer is too heavy. You are on the front line of this war because jihadis don't respect front lines. So at the end of my show for 6 years, the last thing I said is keep your head on a swivel, watch your 6, and stay frosty. As a man, you are responsible for not only your own safety, but the safety of your loved ones and the people around you. You wear the cloth of the Republic. You understand that. If something looks wrong, it probably is. If somebody who's not wearing, emblazoned with a Coca-Cola or Bud Light, insignia, an overall, and he's walking around New Orleans, leaving coolers in the midst of Bourbon Street and walking away from the coolers. That ain't right. And we've got the footage now of Jabbar doing exactly that with IEDs. So number one, be aware of your situation, be tactically aware. And number two, the president nailed it. And it is about open borders. This guy may have been born and raised in Texas, but it's utterly irrelevant. What Stephen Miller said right after is on the money. Jihadi ideology is not indigenous to America. It didn't, grow out of the ground of Texas or Maryland. It is imported to this nation. We now know that Jabbar visited Egypt last year. He went to Canada after he went to Egypt. Who did he meet there? I've been studying this for 25 years. Before an effective jihadi operation occurs, the last thing before they swear bayat publicly, which is what he did, he swore allegiance to ISIS just before he went operational, is they get approval. They get the blessing of a jihadi imam. Was that in Egypt, the birthplace of the Muslim Brotherhood? Was it in a radical mosque in Canada? As soon as Kash Patel takes over, we will know. But the threat is real. And I can't tell you what I was briefed on in the NSC, but do the math. If you're, you know what red teaming is. For the last 10 years, every US service has a red teaming MOS. Next to the theater commander, there will be a major, a colonel who is hatted as a red team expert to think like the enemy. If you're in CENTCOM, you're thinking like ISIS and AQ. If you're in PACOM, you're thinking like China. If you think pretend you're a jihadi mastermind right now. And 4 years ago, the Biden administration says, oh, that wall is stupid. Let's dismantle the wall. Everyone can download the CBP-1 app and clear themselves into the country as an asylum seeker. If you're Hezbollah, Hamas, Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, ISIS-K, if you're a cartel member, if you're a North Korean spy, you are going to insert yourself into the 8 million illegals we know they have let into this country. So we will have a lot of work to do at 12:01 on January the 20th, but with Kash, with Mike Waltz, with Governor Noem, with John Radcliffe, we have the right people. And Tom Homan. Is there anyone better than Tom Homan to secure our border?
Let me ask you this. I got two more quick things to run by you. One, based on everything you just said, it seems to me that for all of these reasons, we need to ban TikTok or ensure that China doesn't own it.
Yeah. Look, I will be making my recommendations. The president used it very skillfully for political purposes to take back America and win the election. But TikTok is a tool for data harvesting by the CCP, our number one strategic threat. Jihadism is a big deal. But the number one nation-state long-term strategic threat to America is the communist nation that has declared by the 100th anniversary of their revolution in 2048, they wish to be the only superpower in the world. So, yeah, you look at, I think you're referring to this article probably, that surveys of TikTok users, vice non-TikTok users, when it comes to issues like open borders, like Hamas, October the 7th, they are far more, if you're a TikTok user, you are far more likely to be soft on Beijing, soft on border walls. There's a reason that propaganda is being exploited on electronic platforms.
Yeah. Last question I have for you. In light of New Orleans, in light of what we saw in Vegas, in light of what is the greatest threat that you think that we are going to face over the next 4 years?
Wow. In my portfolio, it's two things. It's identifying, neutralizing, and removing the jihadis who we know have come into this country. The terror threat list watch numbers are unclassified. You can see them. Externally, it's the recrudescence of the global jihadi movement, especially in Afghanistan with ISIS-K after Biden's surrender of Afghanistan, and then the potential exploitation of Syria. That's for me the two baskets. In terms of grand strategy beyond my portfolio, the things that Colonel Waltz and the president will also have to deal with, I'm sorry, it's China. I learned this.
Don't be sorry. It is China.
It is China.
There's nothing to be sorry for. I'm glad you said that, because I think the more people, we've taken our eye off the ball for too long, and people like you that can say, here is the threat, is what's needed. We need to get our government back focused on the real threat.
Well, and look, I learned this the hard way. I came into the White House 8 years ago thinking, look, I'm a CT guy. I love strategy, but I'm a CT guy, and I'm going to do CT. Once you get the clearances, once you read the president's daily briefing, I mean, it took me about 2 weeks to realize, no, we'll deal with ISIS, which we did. We'll deal with Al-Qaeda, which we did. China, China, China. And I didn't think the president could turn America around. He did. I mean, he turned even Palo Alto around within the space of 2 years. And, you know, that's thanks to Peter Navarro, who's coming back, thanks to, you know, great people like Ambassador Lighthizer. So this is going to be Trump 2.0. The threat we're inheriting is even bigger, but we have the team, Sean. And
good.
You should be there too.
I got to stay on the outside. One of it, it's a security thing. It's like Michael and Janet Jackson. You could only have one in the, you know what I mean? So you went in.
Continuity of MAGA, right? Continuity of government, continuity of MAGA.
Exactly. There you go. Well, I appreciate you, the senior incoming director of counterterrorism at the National Security Council, and now former host of America First on Salem News Channel. I'm sure there'll be a place for you when you're ready to come back out. Always appreciate your time, your counsel, your insights. And I wish you the best, and I hope that you will continue to come on the show once you're officially back in the role.
Or I'll see you in the Navy mess, Commander.
Hey, I'll take that every day of the week. I'll make sure I sign on the bottom, Gorka. I will be there. You name the day. I look forward to the lunch invitation. Thank you for it. Greatly appreciated. Anyway,
go out there and buy the briefing.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
God bless.
All right, guys, what a great conversation with him. Tomorrow, Congressman Derek Van Orden, former Navy SEAL, talking about where the House is on its MAGA America First agenda. Great panel on Thursday. And on Friday, we're talking UFOs with Matt Laszlo. What a week we've got planned for you. Remember, my newsletter drives today. Go to SeanSpicer.com to sign up for free. Get all the information on the inauguration. I appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6 on The Sean Spicer Show.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.